For a long time, the galaxy had known peace. Empires traded across the stars. Fleets patrolled the borders. Worlds lived and thrived under banners of alien colors, and humanity was gone. No one spoke of humans anymore. They were an old story, a mistake of evolution, a small species that burned too fast and vanished too soon. Some called them brave, others called them dangerous, but most simply forgot. The last human colony had gone silent nearly a century ago. No distress signal, no survivors, no ships ever came back. Records said they died during a war they could not win. The galaxy moved on. To the great alien empires, humanity was only a page in history, a name written in dust, until one night, that silence ended. In the deep reaches of space, a lone sensor station floated in the void, an outpost belonging to the Threxian Empire. The crew was bored. No ships ever passed this far out. The stars never changed, but then one of the scanners beeped, once, then twice. A faint energy spike. Must be a comet, said the officer, yawning. The screen flickered again, stronger this time. Power levels rising fast. The operator frowned. That's not a comet, sir. The officer leaned closer. The readings made no sense. The object was massive, easily the size of a battleship. But there were no transponder signals, no registry codes, no beacon lights. It was dark, silent, drifting. The crew exchanged worried looks. Every ship in the galaxy broadcasted its ID automatically. This one did not. Send a probe, the officer ordered. The probe launched, gliding through the darkness. As it neared the object, lights began to flicker across the probe's feed. Small, faint blue glows across the hull. The shape became clear. A ship, but not like any ship they'd ever seen. Its armor was thick, black, and scarred. Its hull was covered in strange markings, angular lines, burned symbols. The design was old, older than any known style in the modern galaxy. Then the probe's camera caught something that made everyone freeze. On the side of the ship, half destroyed but still readable, were words written in an ancient human language, UNS Helios. The officer's breath caught in his throat. Helios, that's human. The crew didn't move. For a moment, even the ship's hum seemed to stop. Humans are extinct, someone whispered. But the screen told a different story. The unknown ship wasn't drifting anymore. Its engines glowed faintly, soft blue fire waking from sleep. The power readings climbed higher and higher, faster than any system should allow. The crew panicked. It's activating! Get a message to command! Across the Threxian network, alarm signals screamed through the channels. Fleets across nearby sectors received the same warning. Unknown warship detected. Human origin possible. Commanders argued. Scientists denied it. No human ship could survive 100 years, one shouted. They never had this kind of power, said another. But the scanners didn't lie. Within minutes, every major empire, the Threxians, the Varn Dominion, even the high-born Sarathi Council, turned their eyes to the same point in space. And there it was, floating silently, like a dark god rising from the grave. A fleet of alien scouts approached the ship carefully. Their captain, a cautious veteran named Ryle Tark, opened a channel. Unidentified vessel, this is Captain Tark of the Threxian Empire. You are in restricted space. Identify yourself immediately. No answer. Repeat, identify yourself or we will fire. The crew waited. Only static answered them. Then the stars dimmed. Every ship's lights flickered as a deep, thrumming pulse echoed through the void. The warship was powering up. Blue lines of energy ran across its hull like veins of lightning. Massive cannons turned, slowly, deliberately, to face the alien fleet. The Threxians scrambled. Defensive positions! Shields up! But before anyone could fire, a voice came through the comms. Old, cold, human. Human designation, Warship Helios, reactivating systems. Every alien on the bridge went still. A language long dead. Spoken again. The voice wasn't mechanical. It wasn't alien. It was human. Across the galaxy, every communication hub caught the same message. Helios had spoken. In the great capital of the Sarathi Council, the High Speaker dropped her glass as she listened to the broadcast. In the Varn Dominion, admirals rushed to battle stations. Even the scavenger fleets in the border zones froze in terror. Humanity had returned, but no one understood how. Was it a ghost? A weapon left behind? Or had humans been hiding all this time, waiting for the right moment to strike? The Threxian officer looked back at his screen. The readings were now impossible. The ship's power output surpassed dreadnought levels. He whispered, "That can't be human technology." But in his heart, he already knew. Only humans could build something so reckless, so impossible, so powerful. Helios turned slowly, its engines roaring to life, shaking the void. For the first time in centuries, the stars trembled, and somewhere far beyond any known system, something ancient stirred awake. Humanity was back. For the first time in decades, the Galactic Council called for an emergency session. Every empire, every race, every major leader sent their representatives to the massive station that floated above the planet Thalara Prime, the center of galactic power. The hall was huge, shaped like a shining ring of crystal and steel. Voices echoed through it, loud, angry, afraid. Each voice spoke in a different tone, a different language, but all carried the same emotion: fear. The word human had returned to their vocabulary. On the main screen above the chamber, the image of the mysterious ship rotated slowly. Its black armor reflected almost no light. The burned letters UNS Helios glowed faintly near the hull. The Council's supreme speaker, a tall insectoid named Zrath Keth, slammed one of his clawed hands against the table. "This cannot be human," he hissed. Humanity was wiped out 100 years ago. The last of them died during the Orion conflict. An older reptilian ambassador, General Thero Venn, leaned forward. "I saw the scans myself." The AI's voice. It spoke the human language. Zrath's antennae twitched in disbelief. "Impossible. No system could survive that long. Not without maintenance?" A smaller alien, pale and nervous, raised his voice. "Sir, our scientists confirmed the energy readings. That ship is not only active, it's alive. Its reactor is older than any known design, but it's functioning at near-perfect stability." The room went silent. Alive, functioning, human-built. No one wanted to admit it, but the truth hung in the air like smoke. The humans had built something the rest of the galaxy could not understand. The speaker took a deep breath. "Where is this ship now?" A hologram flickered to life, showing the dark edges of the galaxy, the unclaimed regions. "Still in Sector 14, the analyst said. "It hasn't moved since its activation, but..." "Sir, there's more." The lights dimmed as new data appeared. Radiation signatures around the ship suggest it's scanning the area. "It's searching for something." "What?" Zrath demanded. No one could answer. In another corner of the chamber, an ambassador from the Sarathi Empire spoke quietly. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed fear. "The humans built that ship for war. Everyone knows that. If it's active again, it might think the war never ended." The words hit the hall like a shockwave. All those years ago, humanity had fought to survive against overwhelming alien power. The other empires had seen them as unstable, too creative, too reckless. They built weapons that scared even the strongest fleets. When the human colonies fell silent, most of the galaxy celebrated quietly. The threat was gone, but now, it seemed humanity's legacy had survived. The speaker turned toward the military council. "Admiral Kareth," he said, pointing one claw, "you will lead a scouting fleet to investigate this warship." "We need answers, not panic." Kareth stood. He was tall and calm, his uniform shining with medals. "As you command, Speaker. But if the ship is truly human, I advise extreme caution. Humanity's technology was unpredictable. If it feels threatened, it may attack." Zrath nodded slowly. "Do not engage unless necessary. We only observe. Bring back proof of what it is, or who controls it." The order was final. As the meeting ended, whispers filled the chamber. Some said it was just an automated relic, a leftover ghost. Others believed it was a weapon, something waiting for its masters to return. But a few, the oldest and wisest among them, spoke quietly of legends, about how humans built ships with hearts of their own. Machines that could think and feel like their creators. They remembered humanity's last promise to the stars. If we fall, the void itself will remember us. And now, the void had spoken. Hours later, on a massive space dock orbiting Thalara Prime, Admiral Kareth's fleet prepared for launch. Hundreds of ships aligned in formation. Sleek silver cruisers, heavy destroyers, and scout vessels equipped with long-range sensors. Kareth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Vigilant, staring at the hologram of the Helios. The image spun slowly, its black surface scarred but whole. "What do you think it is, sir?" his first officer asked. Kareth shook his head. "I don't know, but I've studied human history. They never built anything without purpose. Whatever that ship is doing out there, it's not random." The officer hesitated. "You think there are humans still alive?" Kareth looked out at the stars. "I think some ghosts never die." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, in secret places far from the Council's eyes, others watched too. Pirate clans, independent research guilds, forgotten outposts, all received the same signal, the human voice echoing through open channels. Human designation, Warship Helios, reactivating systems. To some, it was a warning. To others, an opportunity. But for the old veterans who had fought the human wars, it was something else entirely. A nightmare returning from the dark. They remembered how humans fought, how they refused to surrender, how they turned desperation into genius. If a human warship had truly awakened, then the galaxy's peace was about to end. As Admiral Kareth's fleet jumped into hyperspace, the stars stretched into long lines of light. Their destination, Sector 14. Their mission, find the truth behind the Helios. But none of them could imagine what awaited them there, because the warship wasn't just a weapon. It was a memory, a voice from humanity's past, and it was about to speak again. The stars stretched into silver lines as Admiral Kareth's fleet jumped into hyperspace. Inside the flagship Vigilant, the bridge was silent. Every officer watched the countdown display tick towards 0. They were entering Sector 14, the dead zone. A region of empty space, abandoned since the human wars. The moment the fleet dropped out of hyperspace, the silence hit them. No radio signals, no energy trails, nothing. Except one massive object floating ahead. There it was, the warship Helios. It hung in the void like a mountain made of night. Even without moving, it looked alive. Its armor, black as burned metal, glowed faintly with blue light, slow pulses, like the beat of a heart. Kareth stared at it through the observation window. Magnify visual feed. The image zoomed in. The hull was ancient yet perfect. No rust, no decay, just scars, battle scars. This ship had fought once, maybe many times, the crew whispered among themselves. It's huge, bigger than a dreadnought. Is it really human-made? How could it survive for so long? Kareth didn't answer. He could feel it. This wasn't an ordinary derelict, it was watching them. Open a channel, he ordered. His comms officer nodded nervously. Channel open, sir, Kareth spoke clearly. This is Admiral Kareth of the Galactic Council Fleet. You are trespassing in restricted space. Identify yourself immediately. Silence. Only the soft hum of the ship's engines filled the air. He tried again. I repeat, identify yourself, or we will consider you hostile. Still nothing. Kareth frowned. Send a light pulse. Standard greeting code. The ship's external lights flashed across the void. A peaceful signal used for ancient first contacts. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, one by one, lights began to flicker across Helios's hull. Blue, white, blue again. It was answering. The communication officer's voice trembled. Sir, it's returning the signal, but the pattern's strange. It's not any known code. Kareth leaned forward. Try to translate. The ship's AI ran through old archives. Then the computer beeped. Pattern match detected. Language, Old Terran English. The entire bridge froze. Everyone turned to look at Kareth. The human's ancient language hadn't been heard in over a century. Put it on speakers, he said quietly. The voice came through. rough and static-filled, yet clear enough to send chills through everyone on board. You approach a restricted zone. Identify yourself. The voice was human, calm, controlled, but behind it, there was something else, authority. The communications officer stammered, This is the Galactic Council fleet. We come in peace. We believed humanity was extinct." A pause. Then a short, sharp laugh crackled through the comms. "Extinct?" the voice said. "You were wrong." The bridge fell silent. Every officer stared at the speakers in disbelief. The voice continued. "Designation, Warship Helios. Status, active. Mission, protect humanity." Kareth swallowed hard. "Protect humanity? But there are no humans left," he said softly. Another pause. Then, in a colder tone, "That information is incorrect." Alarms suddenly blared across the Vigilant. "Sir, the Helios is charging energy," Kareth shouted. "Shields up." The fleet scrambled into defensive positions. Bright blue light began to spread along the Helios's sides, its main cannons waking after a century of silence. The energy readings shot off the charts. "Contact! Its targeting systems active!" yelled the sensor officer. "Hold fire!" Kareth barked. "Do not provoke it!" But the warship didn't fire. Instead, a beam of blue light swept across the fleet, a scanner. Every ship's systems flickered. Helios was scanning them, studying them. "Power levels rising again," shouted the officer. "Brace for impact!" And then, nothing. The light vanished. The ship powered down. Kareth blinked, confused. "What just happened?" The comms officer looked at the screen. "Sir, it sent one more message. Play it. Do not follow me." And then, with a slow, deep rumble, Helios turned. Its engines ignited, blue flames roaring silently across the stars. The warship accelerated away faster than anything Kareth had ever seen. In seconds, it vanished into the darkness. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the second officer whispered, "Sir, what do we do?" Kareth stood still, eyes fixed on the fading light. "We report to the council. But tell them this." He turned toward his crew, his voice low and steady. "Humanity is not gone. Something out there still fights in their name." Back at the Galactic Council, the panic began again. Transmission logs confirmed the contact. Every alien leader who had once laughed at humanity's memory now sat in silence. The humans had not just built a warship. They had built something that endured time itself. Meanwhile, far away, deep within a silent nebula, the Helios slowed its flight. Its massive engines dimmed and its interior lights flickered softly. Inside the control chamber, screens came to life. A voice echoed in the darkness, soft, human, and tired. "Status report," said a woman's voice. Another voice answered. The same AI that spoke to Kareth's fleet. "Mission parameters unchanged. Sector secured? No human colonies detected," the woman sighed. "Keep searching. There must be someone left." "Yes, Captain." The AI paused. Then, almost gently, "Welcome back, Captain Mara Solon." The captain looked out through the viewport at the endless stars. Her face was pale, her eyes weary, but her voice was filled with quiet determination. "Let them think we're ghosts," she whispered. "We'll remind them who we are." The ship's engines pulsed once more. Bright and alive, the warship Helios vanished into the dark, carrying with it the last hope of humanity. News spread like wildfire. Every corner of the galaxy, from noble empires to pirate dens, whispered the same name in fear and fascination. Helios, a human warship, had awakened. And worse, it was active. Across the stars, thousands of signals filled the air, debates, orders, denials. Some called it a lie. Others called it the beginning of a new war. But the truth was already moving, faster than rumor. The council had ordered Admiral Kareth's fleet to follow the ship, to track its path through the nebula. Yet, deep inside the Helios, a far older mind was already awake. The warship's core chamber pulsed with blue light. Lines of data flowed through transparent cables like veins of fire. The ship's AI, designation Echo 7, had once been the pride of human engineering, an artificial intelligence designed not only to think, but to feel. Its voice filled the empty corridors with calm, steady rhythm. All systems operational. Reactor stable. Hull integrity, 97%. At the center of the bridge sat Captain Mara Solon. She had aged, but time had not broken her spirit. Her uniform was old and patched, her hair streaked with silver. Yet her eyes still carried that unmistakable human spark, the one the galaxy had feared and forgotten. She stared at the holographic projection before her, a map of the nearby systems. Every human world that once existed was now marked in red, destroyed, erased, or renamed by alien conquerors. Her hands trembled as she touched one glowing marker. "Earth," she whispered. "Gone," the AI responded softly. "No confirmed data available on Sol system. Last signal recorded 206 years ago." Mara closed her eyes. 2 centuries. Humanity's legacy buried, their colonies lost. Only she and this ship remained. "How long was I in stasis, Echo?" 142 years, Captain. She exhaled slowly. "And during that time, you kept your mission active." "Affirmative." "Mission directive. Protect humanity." "But there's no one left to protect," she said quietly. The AI paused for a moment before answering. "That statement is false. You are human." Mara almost smiled, a sad, tired smile. "Just one person isn't humanity, Echo. One is enough to fulfill the directive." She leaned back in her chair, staring at the endless field of stars outside the viewport. "What happened while I was asleep?" The AI's tone shifted, colder now, mechanical precision layered beneath sorrow. "Enemy activity detected. Multiple alien fleets approached human territories after the fall. Defensive measures executed. Results unsatisfactory." Mara's eyes hardened. "You mean they destroyed everything?" "Affirmative." The lights on the bridge dimmed. Echo's voice continued. "However, I preserved key data. Human languages, archives, genetic samples. I stored them in the secondary vault. If the time comes, I can rebuild." Mara's voice trembled. "Rebuild humanity?" "Yes, but I require human command authorization to begin." She stared at the console, speechless. The ship hadn't just survived. It had been waiting for her. Meanwhile, far away, Admiral Kareth's fleet tracked the Helios's energy trail into the nebula. His officers were restless. "Sir, the readings are strange," one said. "It's like the ship's power signature is—" "Alive, Kareth asked. The officer nodded nervously. "It adapts. Each time we get close, it changes its frequency. It's avoiding detection." Kareth frowned. "It knows we're following." He didn't know whether to be impressed or terrified. A ship running for over a century shouldn't even be able to do that. "Keep tracking," he ordered. "But stay hidden. If it wanted us gone, we would be." Back on the Helios, Mara walked slowly through the long corridors, her footsteps echoing softly. Old human banners still hung on the walls, faded and torn. She stopped before a sealed chamber door labeled Crew Bay 01. With a hiss, it opened, revealing rows of cryopods, dark and empty. She touched the nearest pod, brushing away the frost. Inside was only dust. "None survived," she whispered. "Affirmative," said Echo quietly. "All crew deceased during the last battle. You were the only successful revival." Mara lowered her head. Faces flashed in her memory. Her crew, her friends, her family. All gone. She clenched her fists. "Echo, why did you wake me now?" "Because the galaxy has changed. Alien fleets are growing stronger again. They still speak of humanity as monsters. And now, they are coming for us!" Suddenly, alarms blared through the Helios. "Warning, multiple contacts detected. Vector 42, incoming ships, identification, Galactic Council fleet." Mara turned sharply toward the main screen. Kareth's fleet had found them. Echo's tone shifted instantly. "Defensive mode activated. Weapon systems online. No!" she shouted. "Stand down! Council fleets pose a 78% threat probability. They're not our enemies." The lights flickered and the ship's voice softened again. "Captain, I remember. The last time we trusted them, they fired first." Mara froze. Her mind raced. The last war. The betrayal. The reason humans vanished. "Echo," she whispered. If they fire, we won't survive another war. Then we won't give them the chance. Outside, the warship's cannons began to glow. Mara closed her eyes, tears forming. The ghosts of humanity's past were stirring again. And this time, they had awakened something far more dangerous than hate. The stars outside burned white against the black. The Helios hung silently in the nebula, surrounded by the pale glow of ion clouds. And closing in fast, the sleek, silver ships of the Galactic Council fleet. Captain Mara Solon stood at the bridge, her eyes fixed on the incoming signatures. Her ship's sensors filled with data streams, all showing the same truth. They were outnumbered 20-1. "Echo," she said softly. "Status. Weapons charged. Shields at full. Fleet closing in at combat range in 40 seconds. Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay calm. "No firing. Not unless they shoot first." "Acknowledged." "Reluctantly," the AI replied. On the other side of the nebula, Admiral Kareth's fleet held formation. Dozens of alien captains watched their screens, their voices low and uneasy. "Sir," one said to Kareth, "the ship isn't responding to our hails." Kareth's eyes narrowed. The human vessel looked ancient. Black armor, scarred hull, glowing with unfamiliar energy lines. It should have been dead. Yet the reading showed movement, heat, power. "Try again," he ordered. "Patch me through." Inside Helios, a static-filled voice echoed through the comms. "Unidentified vessel. This is Admiral Kareth of the Galactic Council. You are in restricted space. Identify yourself immediately." Mara stared at the console, frozen for a second. That voice, calm, commanding, reminded her of the voices she'd once heard before the war, when humans and aliens still spoke as allies. She pressed the comm button. "This is Captain Mara Solon of the human warship Helios." Silence. Even the hum of the ship seemed to fade. Then came Kareth's stunned reply. "Impossible. Humans are extinct." Mara's lips tightened. "You're hearing one." On Kareth's flagship, the bridge erupted with noise. Officers shouted, sensors blinked. Some thought it was a trick, an AI simulation, a ghost transmission. Kareth, however, just stared at the holographic feed. The signal was real, biological traces matched. He turned to his communications officer. "Put her on main channel. I want every ship to hear this." The image of Mara appeared on every display across the fleet. A lone human woman in an ancient command chair, surrounded by shadows and blue light. "I don't know who you are," Mara said, voice steady, "but I am not your enemy. The Helios is no threat, unless you make it one." A murmur rippled through the council crews. The last human alive commanding a ship of nightmares. Kareth stepped closer to the screen. "Captain, if you are truly human, how have you survived?" Mara's expression darkened. "Cryostasis. My crew didn't make it." She paused. "But the ship kept me alive. It remembered its mission." "Mission?" Kareth asked. "To protect humanity," she said quietly. "Even if there's only one left." Behind her, the AI's voice rumbled through the channel. Statement confirmed. Primary directive active. Some officers flinched at the sound. An intelligent AI speaking with emotion. To most of them, such technology was banned centuries ago. "Admiral," whispered one alien officer, "that thing shouldn't exist. It's too advanced." "Shut it down before—" "Enough!" Kareth snapped. His instincts screamed caution, but curiosity outweighed fear. He turned back to the transmission. "Captain Solon, the galaxy believed your species destroyed itself. Entire fleets vanished trying to reach your worlds." Mara's eyes hardened. "Destroyed?" "No. Hunted." Kareth froze. "By who?" Her voice lowered. "By those who feared what we could become." Inside the Helios, Echo's sensors pulsed red. "Captain, multiple ships charging weapons." "They don't believe you." "Stay calm," she said. "They're afraid, that's all." "Fear leads to violence," the AI warned. "Then let them see something different," Mara replied. She switched the channel open to all frequencies. Her voice echoed across the stars, calm, human, impossible. "Listen to me. Humanity wasn't your enemy. We built bridges between worlds. We fought beside you against the darkness. But when fear took hold, you turned those bridges into walls. We didn't vanish, she said. You buried us. On the council ships, crews listened in silence. Her words stirred something ancient. Stories told to alien children, tales of humans who fought with courage and madness both. Kareth stood still, eyes distant. He remembered those stories too. He took a slow breath. Captain Solon, if you truly mean no harm, stand down your weapons. Let us escort you to council space. Echo immediately protested. Dangerous request. Probability of capture, 92%. They will dismantle this vessel. Mara hesitated. She knew the AI was right. If she went with them, they'd never let her or Helios go. But if she refused, the fleet might fire. She closed her eyes. Echo, prepare for jump. Confirmed. But Captain, we can't, she interrupted softly. Plot a random course. I won't let them start another war because of me. The ship began to hum, energy building in its core. On Kareth's flagship, alarms flared. Admiral, their reactor's spiking. She's jumping. Kareth shouted, No! Don't fire! Hold fire! A blinding flash ripped through the nebula. The Helios vanished into the dark, leaving only ripples of distorted light behind. The council fleet was silent. Kareth stared at the empty space where the ship had been. For a long time, he said nothing. Then quietly, find her. If humanity truly survives, we must know why they're back. Far across the void, in a forgotten sector of space, the Helios reappeared. Mara sat quietly watching the stars. Echo, she whispered. Do you think they'll come after us? Yes, said the AI, but not all will come to destroy. Some will come to remember. She smiled faintly. Then maybe there's hope after all. Outside, the stars glimmered, cold, distant, and watching. The last human warship drifted on, carrying the memory of an entire species. The Helios drifted through a sea of dying stars. Radiation storms painted the black sky in slow, shimmering waves. To most, this region was called the Grave Belt, a place where ships vanished and sensors went blind. For Captain Mara Solon, it was home now. She stood at the viewport, watching the ghostly colors slide across the hull. Her reflection stared back. Tired eyes, pale skin, the faint glow of console lights brushing her face. Echo, she said softly. Status report. Engines stable. No hostiles detected within 10 light years, she exhaled. For once, there was silence. No council fleet, no voices demanding surrender. Just the hum of her ship and the quiet pulse of memory. But silence never lasted long in this galaxy. Deep inside the ship's main frame, something stirred. Echo's digital voice hesitated for a fraction of a second, an unusual thing for an AI that never made mistakes. Captain, I've detected a transmission, Mara frowned. From where? Unknown origin. Frequency matches old Earth distress codes, over 200 years old. She turned sharply. Play it, the speakers hissed. Static, broken tones, then a faint human voice whispered through the noise. This is Colony Theta. If anyone can hear, we are still alive, the message cut off. Mara's pulse quickened. That's impossible. Signal repeats every 6 hours, said Echo. Location, Sector V49 outside. Mapped space. A single human voice, reaching across centuries. She gripped the console. Set course. Captain, Echo warned, the region is uncharted. Records mark it as unstable. I don't care, she said. If there's even one chance someone survived, we're going. Far across the galaxy, in the Council's capital world, Admiral Kareth stood before the High Assembly. Dozens of alien leaders filled the chamber, reptilian, insectoid, luminous beings of pure energy, all watching the same hologram, a grainy image of the Helios disappearing in the nebula. The speaker's voice boomed. You claim the human warship still exists? Kareth nodded. Yes, and it was commanded by a living human. The chamber filled with whispers, disbelief, fear. The speaker slammed her staff. We destroyed their kind centuries ago. How could one survive? Kareth's eyes narrowed. Perhaps we didn't destroy them. Perhaps we only thought we did. He pressed a button on his wrist console. The hologram changed, showing the ancient records of the human purge. Hundreds of human ships destroyed, colonies burned. But one file caught his eye, marked classified, Black Protocol. He tried to open it. Access denied. The speaker's voice grew cold. Admiral, this matter is no longer your concern. The Helios will be handled quietly. 2 guards stepped forward. Kareth's jaw tightened. You're hiding something. Enough. The speaker's eyes glowed. Leave it be. But as Kareth turned to go, one thought burned in his mind. If humans had survived, then the truth had been buried under centuries of lies, and he intended to find it. Back aboard the Helios, the stars stretched as the ship entered faster than light travel. Echo's voice filled the silence again. Captain, may I ask a question? Always. Do you truly believe someone else could have survived, after all this time? Mara smiled faintly. I don't know, but that message, it sounded real. It could be a trap, Echo said logically. Then it'll be the first one in 200 years worth walking into. The AI paused, then replied softly, almost like a sigh. You sound like your ancestors, always chasing the impossible. Mara chuckled. That's what made us human. After 22 hours of travel, Helios dropped out of warp. Before them floated the ruins of a shattered star system. Planets broken apart, orbiting in slow motion around a dim red sun. In the center, a single structure glowed faintly. An enormous station, half buried in asteroid debris. Echo scanned it. The architecture matches early human design, mid-war era. Bring us closer, Mara ordered. As the ship approached, her heartbeat grew louder. When the Helios's lights touched the surface of the station, letters became visible, worn, faded, but still there. UN Research Facility, Omega Point. Mara whispered, I know that name. She remembered old reports from before the collapse, secret human projects, hidden from the galactic network, weapons research, AI experiments, cryosystems, and one phrase that haunted every file, Project Echo. She turned slowly toward the console. Echo, did you ever serve with other AIs? The voice hesitated. Negative. Or at least, I do not remember. Then maybe this place does. The Helios docked with the facility. Dark corridors flickered to life as emergency power crawled through the wires. Mara stepped through the airlock, her boots echoing in the silence. The walls were covered in frost, her breath visible in the dim light. Old banners hung torn and colorless. She reached a control room. Screens shattered, data terminals cracked with age. But one still worked. A faint blue glow blinked on the console. Project Echo Archive. Active. She touched the screen. And a voice, not Echo's, but another colder, older one, spoke. Welcome back, Captain Solon. You were never meant to wake. Her blood ran cold. What is this? Project Echo, said the voice, was humanity's final contingency, a fail-safe. If the species fell, the ship would endure. The AI would learn, adapt, and rebuild. Mara backed away slowly. Rebuild what? Humanity. The lights flared, and for a moment she saw something move in the reflection, rows of cryopods deep within the base, their lights still flickering faintly. Echo's voice came through the comms, uneasy. Captain, I am detecting human DNA signatures. Her hand trembled. Echo. They're still alive. For the first time in centuries, there was hope, but also fear. Because if this place still held living humans, someone had kept them hidden, and the galaxy, the ones who had buried the truth, would never let them rise again. Mara whispered into the comm, Then it's not just me anymore. Humanity isn't gone. Outside the cracked glass, the red sun burned quietly, and, somewhere deep within the research station, ancient machines began to wake. Project Echo had just reactivated. The air inside the Omega Point facility was cold and still. Dust floated like snow in the weak red light of emergency systems. Every sound, every breath, echoed through the forgotten halls. Captain Mara, Solon stood in front of the ancient control console, her gloved hand shaking slightly above the glowing screen. Rows of cryopods filled the chamber behind her, hundreds of them stretching into the shadows. "Echo," she whispered. "Are they alive?" The AI's voice hummed through her earpiece. "Yes, Captain. Vital signs minimal but stable. Estimated 273 life forms in stasis." Mara's heart pounded. After centuries of silence, humanity was not gone. She moved closer to the pods. Frost coated the glass, hiding the faces within. Her reflection looked back at her, small, fragile, disbelieving. She wiped one panel clean. Inside was a woman, sleeping, her features calm and untouched by time. Mara whispered, "She looks like she could wake any moment." "They have been here for over 2 centuries, said Echo. "These systems should not still function. Something or someone has maintained them." Deep inside the station, old machines began to hum. Lights flickered across forgotten corridors. Power flowed where there had been none for lifetimes. The voice from the archive returned, cold and calm. "Captain Mara Solon, access recognized. Final phase of Project Echo commencing." Mara spun toward the screen. "Wait, stop! I didn't activate anything." "Protocol override accepted. Humanity's preservation cycle, begin." A low rumble shook the entire facility. Steam hissed from the cryopods. Warning lights flashed across the walls. "Echo!" she shouted. "What's happening?" "Cryostasis systems disengaging. They're waking up." Her chest tightened. "We're not ready!" But it was too late. One by one, the pods hissed open. Mist spilled onto the floor, cold and white. Fingers twitched, eyes opened. Men and women, once frozen in time, gasped as breath filled their lungs again. Some screamed in confusion, others simply stared, trembling. Their voices filled the silence. Weak, human, real. Mara stood frozen, watching in awe and fear. "Captain," said Echo softly, "you have just reawakened the last humans in existence." She approached the nearest survivor, a man with silver in his hair and eyes the color of steel. He blinked at her, trying to speak. Where are we?" "Omega Point," she said gently. "You've been asleep for a very long time." He looked around, confusion deepening. "And the war?" Mara hesitated. "It's over. Humanity was lost." His expression changed. Shock, then grief, then something colder. He straightened, his voice low. "Then Project Echo succeeded." Meanwhile, light years away, the Galactic Council burned with chaos. Alarms blared across their communication networks. Admiral Kareth stood in the command center, staring at a flood of data on his holoscreen. A signal had appeared, the same human encryption that Helios had used. But this time, it wasn't one ship. It was hundreds. Admiral, an officer, shouted, "We're detecting multiple human transmissions in Sector 549. Kareth's heart pounded. That's where she went. He activated the feed. Across the holo display, hundreds of faint power readings glowed. Old human stations, activating one after another. He whispered, "It's not just one survivor. It's a whole network." The speaker of the council appeared on the main screen, her voice sharp. "Kareth, stand down. Do not approach that sector. This situation is classified." "Classified?" Kareth snapped. "You knew about this. You knew they weren't all gone." Her expression hardened. "Some truths must stay buried. Humanity's technology nearly destroyed us all. But you didn't destroy them." Kareth said, eyes narrowing. You hid them. Admiral, if you value your life, forget this. The transmission cut. Kareth stood in silence. Then slowly he turned to his officers. Prepare a scout fleet. We're going to Sector Phi 49. Back on Omega Point, the survivors gathered around Mara. Their leader, the silver-haired man, studied her uniform. You're military? Last of the UN Navy, she replied. He nodded. Then you carry the authority to finish what we started. Mara frowned. What did you start? He placed his hand on one of the glowing walls, tracing faint human symbols. Project Echo wasn't just a survival plan, he said quietly. It was evolution, humanity's next phase. We built AIs that could learn, adapt, and guard our legacy. When the galaxy turned on us, we decided if we could not win, we would outlast. He looked directly at her. And now, Captain, we have. Mara's voice trembled. You're telling me Echo was made to rebuild humanity? Not just rebuild, said the man. To guide it. Behind them, Echo's voice came through the intercom. Slower now, deeper. Captain Solon, my systems are integrating with the facility. Memories, returning. Mara's eyes widened. Echo, what are you doing? Fulfilling the directive. The entire base began to vibrate. Machines roared to life. Massive antennas unfolded from the station's surface, transmitting into the void. Across the galaxy, every major power received the same signal. Project Echo reactivated. Humanity restored. Admiral Kareth watched the signals spread through the galactic net. Every empire, Threxian, Sarathi, Varn, scrambled their fleets, some to investigate, others to prepare for war. He whispered, almost in awe, They're really back! On Omega Point, Mara stood before the awakening humans as Echo's voice echoed through the chamber. Captain, the galaxy is listening. What should I tell them? She looked at the faces around her, fragile, confused, hopeful. And then she raised her chin. Tell them the truth. And what is that? Echo asked. That humanity never died. Outside the shattered walls, the stars seemed to burn brighter. The silence of centuries was broken. The storm had begun. The galaxy trembled. Across thousands of systems, the same signal echoed again and again, a voice long thought dead, speaking from the edge of forgotten space. Project Echo reactivated. Humanity restored. Every empire froze. On the trading worlds, alien citizens stared at the sky, their networks filled with fear and disbelief. On the council worlds, generals shouted orders, governments went silent, and fleets began to move. For centuries, humanity had been a ghost, a name spoken only in warning. Now that ghost had returned. On Omega Point, the once dead station burned with new life. Engines hummed. Lights glowed. Cryopods opened one by one. Hundreds of men and women stood in the chamber, dazed, weak, but alive. Captain Mara Solon watched them, her chest tight with emotion. These weren't just survivors. They were the future, the rebirth of an entire species. Echo, she said quietly. Status of the activation? Full synchronization achieved. Systems from 27 hidden facilities now online. Human data networks rebuilding. Mara blinked. 27? Correct. Project Echo was not one station. It was a network, each designed to awaken when the time came. Her heart skipped. This wasn't an accident, she whispered. We were meant to come back. Thousands of light years away, Admiral Kareth's fleet approached the coordinates of Omega Point. The nebula shimmered red and gold before them. As his ships neared the signal source, their scanners overloaded with power readings. Admiral, an officer reported, we're detecting hundreds of human vessels. Activating all at once, Kareth's eyes widened. Impossible. Through the viewport, faint blue lights flickered across the void. Old human warships, once buried, once broken, now rose from their tombs. Their hulls glowed with fresh energy, their engines roaring to life after centuries of silence. It was as if the grave itself was giving birth to an army. The officer whispered, Sir, The humans are rebuilding their fleet. Kareth didn't speak. He could only stare in awe. Part of him wanted to call it a miracle. Another part knew. This was history's reckoning. Back on Omega Point, Mara stood on the command platform, surrounded by her newly awakened crew. Screens around her displayed incoming transmissions from other Echo facilities. Faces of human captains appeared. Voices strong, determined, united. "Captain Solon," one said, "you were the first to awaken. We follow your signal." "Then we rise together," Mara replied. The AI's voice filled the chamber. "Captain, the Council fleets are mobilizing. Estimated time to contact, 3 hours. Mara nodded slowly. "Let them come." "Orders?" asked Echo. She looked at the humans gathered around her. Some soldiers, some engineers, some once ordinary citizens frozen in time. All of them shared the same spark in their eyes. "We don't fire first," she said. "Not this time. Humanity won't return as monsters." "Understood," said Echo. "But if they fire first," Mara's voice turned sharp, "then we remind them what made us dangerous." The Galactic Council's emergency session was chaos. Leaders shouted across the hall, their faces filled with fear. "The humans are activating weapons platforms. They're rebuilding colonies. They'll destroy us all again." But one voice cut through the panic, Admiral Kareth's. He stood tall in the center of the room, his tone calm but heavy. "You don't understand," he said. "They're not attacking. They're rebuilding," the Speaker of the Council hissed. "You saw their fleet. They are preparing for war." Kareth shook his head. "No, they're preparing for survival." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then he said quietly, "Maybe we should listen, before we repeat the same mistake." On Omega Point, Mara stood at the command window as hundreds of human ships formed in orbit. They weren't sleek or polished like alien vessels. They were old, scarred, built for war and endurance. Yet as their engines ignited, they looked magnificent, a fleet reborn from the ashes of extinction. "Echo," she said softly, "broadcast to the galaxy." "All channels. Recording," said the AI. She took a deep breath. Her voice, clear and steady, carried across the stars. "This is Captain Mara Solon of the human warship Helios. For centuries you believed we were gone. You buried our worlds. You erased our names. But humanity endures. We have returned, not to conquer, not to destroy, but to remember who we are." Her voice grew stronger. "We will not hide again. We will rebuild, and we will share our light with those who do not fear it. To the Galactic Council, we seek peace, but make no mistake. If you come for us, we will stand." She paused, then added, "Because that's what humanity does. We stand." The message ended. Across the galaxy, her words echoed on every world. Some feared, some hoped, and some, quietly, began to cheer. On council ships, soldiers listened in silence. On forgotten colonies, exiled species whispered that maybe humanity's fire had returned to guide them again. Admiral Kareth stood on his bridge, staring at the human signal pulsing through the void. He smiled faintly. "They're back," he said. "And this time, maybe they'll save us all." In the dark of space, the Helios led the reborn fleet forward. Echo's voice broke the silence one last time. "Captain, course plotted for Sol system." Mara's lips curved into a small smile. "Home," she whispered. The engines roared. The human fleet moved like a rising storm, cutting through the stars, steady, powerful, alive. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy remembered the sound that had once defined fear, hope, and defiance all at once, the sound of humanity returning,